Welcome to my channel, my dear friends. But before you continue, let me ask you something that may change the way you see your entire life. What if the person you become tomorrow is being created by the choices you make when nobody is watching today? What if respect, trust, strength, and success are not gifts waiting for you somewhere in the future, but qualities you can begin building right now? Stay with me, because before this story ends, you will discover why one small decision can change the direction of an entire life. There was once a person who wanted success badly. They wanted people to notice their work, respect their opinions, trust their promises, and admire what they achieved. They dreamed about a better future, but they had made one dangerous mistake. They were trying to become successful before becoming strong in character. The first turning point came when they realized that demanding respect could never create real respect. They had often wondered why people did not listen carefully or treat them seriously. Then one day, they asked a harder question: how do I treat others? That question changed everything. They began listening instead of interrupting. They spoke politely even when they were frustrated. They stopped judging people by their money, job, education, or position. A powerful person could be treated well because they were powerful, but true character appeared when there was nothing to gain. So they started showing the same kindness to a cleaner, a driver, a stranger, a younger person, and a person who made a small mistake. Slowly, they discovered something surprising. Respect was not something they could force from people. It was something their behavior could earn. The second turning point came when they learned that respect for others must exist beside respect for themselves. Being kind did not mean accepting every kind of treatment. They learned to create boundaries without shouting, to forgive without immediately trusting again, and to walk away from repeated disrespect without becoming cruel. They began keeping promises to themselves, protecting their time, caring for their health, and refusing to do wrong things simply to impress others. For the first time, they understood that self-respect was not pride. It was the quiet decision to live according to values even when nobody applauded. Then life presented a harder test. The third turning point arrived after a serious mistake. Something they had promised to finish was left incomplete, and when the problem appeared, their first instinct was to find someone else to blame. They could have blamed a friend, a difficult situation, or a lack of time. But they stopped. They looked at the situation honestly and said, I played a part in this. That sentence was uncomfortable, but it gave them power. Instead of defending the mistake, they began fixing it. They apologized where necessary, corrected what they could, and changed the way they planned their work. They discovered that responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means being honest about your part and asking what you can do next. The fourth turning point came when they understood that choices always carry consequences. Before spending money, they started thinking about tomorrow. Before speaking in anger, they considered what their words might damage. Before making promises, they asked whether they could truly keep them. They stopped waiting for other people to rescue them from every problem and began taking ownership of their time, decisions, habits, and direction. This did not make life easier overnight, but it made them stronger. Then came the day when everything seemed to collapse at once, and that moment would reveal whether these new values were real or only words. A project failed, an opportunity disappeared, and someone they trusted disappointed them. For a moment, the old version of them wanted to quit. But this became the fifth turning point because they remembered that character is not tested during easy days. It is tested when life becomes unfair. They allowed themselves to feel hurt, but they refused to let pain choose their future. They asked, what can I learn from this? That question opened a new door. Maybe the setback showed a weakness. Maybe the plan needed changing. Maybe patience was required. They did not have every answer, but they had one important choice: rise again. They understood that resilience was not pretending nothing hurt. It was feeling the pain, learning from it, and still taking the next step. That night, they made a promise to themselves. No matter how successful they became, they would never forget the character that had to be built first. Because success is not having more. It is becoming someone who can be trusted with more, and the next test would challenge that promise in a way they expected. The sixth turning point came when the person discovered that resilience was not only about surviving a painful moment, it was about learning how to return after the moment had passed. They could recover from one disappointment, yet if they returned to the same habits, another disappointment would soon arrive. So they began studying their own behavior. They asked where their time disappeared, why certain promises were broken, and which choices repeatedly created problems. This honest look was uncomfortable, but it revealed something powerful. A setback could become a teacher if they were willing to listen. They also learned that nobody expects perfection. People can forgive a mistake when they see honesty, effort, and change. What destroys trust is not always the first mistake. Sometimes it is refusing to admit it or repeating it without learning. So, whenever something went wrong, they stopped asking, "How can I protect my image?" and started asking, "How can I correct this?" That small change made them more dependable. If they arrived late, they accepted it instead of creating an excuse. If they misunderstood instructions, they asked for clarification. If they hurt someone, they apologized without turning the apology into another excuse. Responsibility slowly became a habit instead of a speech. The seventh turning point arrived when they understood that their name was becoming a story in other people's minds. Every promise, every conversation, every decision, and every private action was adding another sentence to that story. They realized that reputation was not created by telling people, "I am a good person." It was created by repeatedly giving people reasons to believe it. They began arriving when they said they would arrive. They returned things they borrowed. They protected private information. They stopped making promises simply because promises sounded impressive. Their words became fewer, but their words became more valuable. Then came a moment that tested their honesty. They found something valuable that did not belong to them. Nobody was watching. There was no obvious danger in keeping it. For a few seconds, the easy choice seemed attractive. But the eighth turning point happened when they realized that character is most visible when there is no audience. They returned what they had found. Nobody celebrated. Nobody gave them a prize. Yet something inside them became stronger. They had chosen the person they wanted to be instead of the person who could benefit from a secret opportunity. After that, they became more careful with words. They stopped gossiping about people who were absent and began thinking about how their words might sound if repeated in front of the person being discussed. They also learned that being honest does not require being cruel. Truth can be spoken with kindness. A strong person can disagree without insulting. A mature person can correct someone without humiliating them. The ninth turning point came when they realized that respect was not silence and kindness was not weakness. Real strength allowed them to stand firmly without stepping on someone else. But there was still a hidden danger. They had begun improving, yet they wanted everyone to notice. They wanted people to see the new discipline, the better choices, and the stronger character. Then came the 10th turning point. They realized that constant attention could become another trap. Instead of announcing every plan, they began working quietly. They practiced when nobody knew, they improved when nobody praised them. They let consistency speak before they did. This changed their relationship with success. They no longer needed applause every morning to continue. One evening, they looked at their life and noticed that nothing dramatic had happened. There was no sudden fortune, no giant celebration, and no magical transformation. Yet, they were different. They were calmer under pressure, more honest about mistakes, more careful with promises, and more respectful toward people. The greatest change had happened silently. And then another challenge appeared, one that would test whether quiet character could survive the temptation of visible success. A powerful opportunity was coming, and accepting it could bring money, attention, and status. But it would also require a choice between quick success and doing what was right. The decision was no longer about what they could gain, it was about what they were willing to become. The opportunity looked from the outside, but something felt wrong. Accepting it would require hiding a truth and allowing another person to carry the cost. Nobody might discover what happened for years. The old version would have calculated the reward. The new version calculated the price of losing self-respect. The 11th turning point came when they walked away. It was painful because another person might become successful faster. Yet, they chose a road they could live with. That choice taught them that character often asks for sacrifice before it gives rewards. The 12th turning point came when success finally began to appear, but instead of making life easier, it created a new test. People started noticing the work. Compliments arrived. Opportunities increased. But they remembered something important. Success can reveal character just as clearly as failure. When people have nothing, they often promise to remain humble. When they finally have something, life gives them the chance to prove it. So they continue treating people with the same respect they had shown before. They listened to new employees, thanked helpers, and never used their position to make anyone feel small. They understood that having power did not make another person less valuable. Then another challenge appeared. Someone who had once doubted them suddenly wanted to become close now that success was visible. The old anger returned. Part of them wanted to say, "You ignored me when I had nothing, so why should I care now?" But they remembered their values. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting everything, and kindness did not require giving everyone unlimited access. They could remain respectful while keeping healthy boundaries. The 13th turning point came when they chose peace over revenge. They did not insult the person, expose old secrets, or try to make them feel small. They simply continued forward. They discovered that revenge keeps you connected to people you claim to have moved beyond. Peace releases them. As their responsibilities grew, another problem appeared. More people depended on them, and their time became valuable. They started receiving requests from everyone. At first, they wanted to help every person because saying no felt selfish. Soon, however, they became exhausted. They were helping others while neglecting their own important responsibilities. The 14th turning point came when they learned that good character also requires boundaries. Saying no to something unnecessary was not cruelty. It was honesty. They began protecting their time so they could keep the promises that truly mattered. They stopped agreeing simply to avoid disappointing people. Instead, they answered clearly and respectfully. "I cannot do that right now," became easier to say. They learned that a promise should be made carefully because another person may build their plans around your word. Then came the hardest test of all. A major decision could increase their success dramatically, but it would also force them to choose between profit and principle. The opportunity looked rare. Everyone around them encouraged them to accept it. "Think about what you could gain," they said. But the person looked beyond the reward and asked a deeper question. "Who will I become if I choose this?" That question stopped them. Money could be earned again. Status could disappear. Opportunities could return in different forms. But losing the ability to respect yourself could cost far more than any amount of money. They chose honesty, even though it was slower. For a while, the decision looked foolish. Other people moved ahead. Some laughed and called them too cautious. Doubt returned, but months later, something unexpected happened. The opportunity that had looked perfect from the outside began causing serious problems for the people who accepted it. The hidden cost became visible. The person who had walked away realized that sometimes a closed door is protection disguised as disappointment. This became the 15th turning point, because they finally understood that character does not guarantee an easy life. It gives you a strong direction when life becomes confusing. There will still be losses, rejection, pressure, and difficult choices. Good character will not prevent every storm, but it can help you walk through it without losing yourself. By then, they had learned 5 truths. Respect must be given before it is requested. Responsibility begins when excuses end. Resilience grows every time you rise. Reputation is built through repeated actions. Results matter, but they become meaningful only when they come from honest work. Years later, people saw the success, but not the thousands of small choices behind it. They saw confidence, but not the doubt. They saw trust, but not every promise carefully kept. They saw strength, but not every setback that taught patience. They saw the result, but not the character underneath it. And that was the greatest lesson. A strong life is not built in public. It is built privately through choices that nobody may ever applaud. Your future name is written by what you do today. So, when you are tempted to take the easy road, remember that the easy road can have an expensive destination. Choose the action that lets you sleep peacefully. Choose honesty when lying would be easier. Choose responsibility when excuses would protect your image. Choose resilience when quitting would feel comfortable. Choose respect when anger would feel powerful. Because one day, your success will introduce you to many people, but your character will decide whether they can trust you. The person eventually understood that the greatest reward was not becoming admired by everyone, but becoming someone they could respect when alone. Success was no longer only money, position, attention, or achievement. It was keeping good values when life offered easier choices. It was being kind without being weak, responsible without excuses, strong without cruelty, and ambitious without losing honesty. They also understood that self respect was built the same way. Every time they kept a promise to themselves, protected a boundary, cared for their health, rejected a dishonest shortcut, or walked away from unnecessary drama, they were saying, "My values matter." That belief became stronger than the desire to impress others. Then they discovered something deeper. Character is never finished. It must be protected every day. A person can spend years building trust and damage it through one careless choice. A person can become successful and then become careless because they believe success makes them untouchable. That is why humility matters. The higher you rise, the more carefully you should remember the people who helped you, the mistakes that taught you, and the difficult days that shaped you. Never allow success to make you disrespectful toward people who are still struggling. Your position may change, but another person's human value does not. There will also be days when nobody notices your effort. You may do the right thing and receive no reward. You may keep a promise and nobody may thank you. You may refuse a dishonest opportunity and watch someone else become successful faster. Those moments can make you wonder whether character is worth the cost, but character is not built for applause. It is built because you have to live with yourself every night. When the world becomes quiet, you know the choices you made. That private knowledge can become peace or regret. Choose the kind of choices that allow you to respect your own reflection. Remember that reputation is not only about how strangers see you, it is also about how the people closest to you experience you. Are you dependable at home? Do your words match your actions? Do you listen when someone needs you? Do you apologize when you are wrong? A successful person who cannot be trusted by those closest to them has missed an important part of success. Build your character everywhere, not only where it benefits you. Do not be afraid to let results speak. You do not need to announce every goal, sacrifice, or improvement. Work quietly, learn your craft, improve your skills, finish what you start, accept feedback without becoming defensive. When the quality of your work improves, people will notice. And if they do not notice immediately, continue anyway. Your growth does not become meaningless because nobody applauded it. Sometimes the strongest progress happens before anyone can see it. So, if you are listening today and wondering whether your character really matters, remember this. Your character is the foundation beneath every result you hope to build. Skills can open doors, money can create opportunities, and talent can attract attention. But trust determines how long people will want you in the room. Respect determines how they remember you. Responsibility determines whether they can depend on you. Resilience determines whether you can continue after failure. Your results show what you created through effort. Build all of them together. Do not chase a successful life while becoming someone you cannot respect. Chase a meaningful life where achievement and character grow together. One day, people may forget your exact salary, old titles, or numbers you once celebrated. They may not remember every award or victory, but they are more likely to remember how you made them feel, whether they could trust your word, whether you stood by your values, and whether your success made you kinder or smaller. That is the legacy worth building. Let your actions become proof of your values. Let your patience become strength. and let your success become a reflection of the person you worked hard to become with courage, honesty, patience, purpose. So, start today. Give respect before asking for it. Take responsibility before searching for excuses. Rise after setbacks instead of letting them name you. Protect your reputation through consistent actions. Work hard and let your results provide the proof. Do not wait until you become successful to become a person of strong character. Build the character now and let your future success grow from it. Because the greatest achievement is not simply reaching a higher place, it is reaching that place without losing yourself along the way. And when your story is finally told, let the most powerful thing people say about you be simple. They achieved something, but more importantly, they became someone worth trusting.